Hi, this is Misha, and this is our closer look at the Japanese Type 30 Arisaka in 6.5 by 50 semi-rimmed. Now, we have had this gun in a few different videos comparing designs and differences, but this is just a look right at the Type 30. As we've said in our other videos, Japan's first smokeless powder infantry rifle and carbine were the Type 22 Muratas in 8x53 rimmed, but these were quickly replaced by a more modern design. Designed by Colonel Nariaki Arisaka in the mid-1890s, his rifle was adopted in 1897 as the year Type 30, which was the 30th year of the reign of the Meiji Emperor, and really was a good step forward from the Murata. For one thing, we got away from the 8mm cartridge with the large rim. We've gone to a much smaller diameter 6.5mm cartridge with a semi-rim, so it still has a rim, but it's a much smaller rim. We've gone from a 29.5 inch to about a 31.5 inch barrel on the infantry rifle. We have a longer top handguard. Have very similar adjustable tangent style sights. Yep. We take a new pattern, a bayonet, the Type 30 bayonet, which will be used on pretty much all Japanese guns until the end of World War II. Interestingly, the cleaning rod is under the barrel, unlike the Murata, and the head is made of brass, so it won't scratch the barrel as much and wear the rifling. Moving back, the bolt is still a typical turn bolt. This is inspired by the German Mauser Gewehr 88, often called the commission rifle. It is still a two-piece bolt. The head rotates, as you see, and comes off from the body. When it's in the gun, this rotates and it stays fixed. This is your ejector, which is part of your bolt. Your extractor is over here. So the bolt is more advanced than the Muratas, but still kind of an artifact of its day, being a two-piece design. The magazine is now a vertical, double stack, double column Mauser pattern holding 5 cartridges. It has a removable floor plate. Most Mausers have a removable floor plate, but you need a bullet tip. This, you can just press a lever inside the trigger guard. Now notice it has a wire coil spring, not a leaf. It's kind of unique for the Type 30. They would not use that very long. Unlike the Murata, we do have a safety on this gun. It is a so-called hook safety. Here, you pull back with your finger and then up for safe. This disengages. It also has this pointing up, so if you try to look down the sights, you'll know immediately the safety's on. And to pull it off, just pull it back and your gun is cocked, ready to fire. You can also use this as a decocker in a way by putting your finger on it and easing it forward. Very typical stock with bottom mounted sling swivel otherwise. Straight, flat metal butt plate. Otherwise, a very standard infantry rifle of its day and time. These would be adopted by the Japanese Army in 1897 and go into production at the Tokyo Artillery Arsenal. They would only make these for a few years. By 1902, the Japanese Navy had already selected a new, updated version of the Arisaka, which had actually been worked on by Mr. Nambu, General Nambu, which we have a video on the Type 35. And then in 1905, both would be replaced by the Type 38 Arisaka, which is much more famous. So much like the Murata, this was in production for a very brief period of time. It was officially replaced in frontline service by the Type 38 in 1905, but quite a few were still on second line, and even a few in frontline service during World War I. By World War II, these were second line guns at best, with many being retired. Also, a large number were sold off to Russia during World War I, and a not insignificant number were also sold or traded to the British Royal Navy. Many of these found their way into Finland after the revolution as well. So the Type 30 was really the first Japanese gun to be seen in large numbers outside of Japan. It was a good gun, but it had deficiencies, which again led to the 35 and the 38, which we'll talk about the updates to it then. It was definitely a step forward compared to the Murata, but still had a ways to go. It proved to be pretty susceptible to dust and dirt. Also, the two-piece bolt was problematic in virtually every gun it was tried in, to one extent or the other. So these would go out of production. However, their cartridge, 6.5 millimeter, would stay in production through World War II, as would the Type 30 bayonet. To go along with the infantry rifle, we have a Cavalry Carbine here. Like the Murata, Type 22 Cavalry Carbine, and the later Type 38 Cavalry Carbine, this has a much shorter 19.5-inch barrel. It has a protected front sight instead of just an exposed blade. Some Type 30 carbines would have a short upper handguard. Others, such as this, would not. We have a shorter, much shorter, rear sight. And we have side sling mounts. The bolt is the same. Still a straight bolt handle. Magazine is the same. All that's the same. So really the difference was just a shorter barrel, changes to the sights, and changes to the sling swivel. These would go into production very soon after the long rifle. And they would make not near as many. The long rifles, they would turn out about 554,000. For the carbines, they would produce only about 45,000. But then again, the carbine was a specialist gun. Still a relatively large number. You know, all told, we've got 600,000 Type 30s, so that's a pretty good step up from the Murata and the guns came before. But still, again, a couple of 100,000 would eventually be given away or sold to Japanese allies before, during, and after World War I. But that still left several 100,000 in Japan. Today, the carbines are pretty uncommon to verging on rare. I obtained this one several years ago from a friend. He made me a good deal on it. If you can find these in any condition, as long as they're original unsporterized, I consider it lucky. This gun here was actually my very first Arisaka I ever purchased. I found it at a local gun/pawn shop many years ago. And so it has some sentimental value, and it's in good shape for what a Type 30 usually looks like. So I've had this one for a long time. They're just interesting pieces of Japanese history. The Type 30s really don't command a huge amount of money but I still think they're interesting. They're quite different from the later 38s and 99s. So if you have a Japanese collection and you run across one of these for $300 or $400, pick it up. It's definitely a neat gun to have. Well, that's really about all I can say. Like I said, these were in service for a brief period of time. They did see combat in the Russo-Japanese War as a frontline infantry weapon, and that's really where some of the shortcomings became known. But they were also used in various little skirmishes throughout Asia in the very late 19th and early 20th century. And again, they were still in some use in World War I. Well, if you liked the video, we'd appreciate it if you'd click like. If you're interested in Japanese guns, we have several other videos, including some pretty unusual variants. If you haven't already subscribed and had the time to do so, we'd greatly appreciate that, of course. If you have any questions, please post them below. As always, this is Misha, and we'll catch you next time.